Okay, so let's talk about Vietnam. What's going on? What's wrong? And why the greatest starvation on planet Earth will likely begin in a place we refer to as the Mekong Delta. That would be down here. Pretty much the entire southern tip of Vietnam is, to some extent, a delta. It's basically been built out by the sediments brought down on the Mekong River. And the Mekong River is a very long river that starts way up in China and makes its way all the way down to the southern tip of Vietnam. Now, it used to make its way. Now it's dammed so many times that basically only local water in the lower portion of the Mekong actually flows because most of the upstream water is being diverted. And the result of this is that this entire region, being basically a soggy, spongy river delta, probably the second largest river delta on Earth, begins to desiccate. The water disappears out of it. It dries up. And when it dries up, it shrinks. And the effect of that shrinkage is subsidence, that it actually goes down. So if you're worried about sea level rise coming and getting the Mekong Delta, guess what? The Mekong Delta is going down to meet it. It's not going to wait for the sea level rise to destroy it. It's shrinking down. The effect of this and what sea level rise has occurred and the effective sea level rise caused by the more intense sea swells and ocean activities, storm activities, that has the effect of amplifying and multiplying sea level rise to the point where several feet of effective sea level rise from the more intensified storms is already driving salinity deep up into the Mekong, where 60 million people's food is grown. And as this higher salinity water penetrates deep into the delta, as it gets more and more dried out from a lack of incoming water, and that water evaporates, concentrating the salt, it is only a matter of time. The clock is already ticking. Okay, it may be 1 minute to midnight in the rest of the world, but guess what? The alarm's going off in the Mekong Delta right now. There is no time to spare. And there is no solution. China has no intentions of opening up their floodgates and allowing the water diversion to stop. If they did, millions of people live in the low-lying desiccated areas, and when the water returned from the dams that you're going to remove, millions of people would find their homes underwater. There is no solution. The Mekong Delta will desiccate. That's already in motion. So now you say, well, what is it you propose to do? Well, what I propose to do is on the coastline, in the shallows, in the seawater, plant marine forestation. One mangrove tree, whatever the local mangroves are, usually are mango, but whatever the local mangroves are, in as diverse a permaculture as we can possibly create for this entire 1 million hectare area, not only along the shorelines, but into the island clusters, wherever the water is shallow and it's practical to plant mechanically supported marine forestation. These are structurally supported trees. This is not the area in the intertidal, which of course, as you can see, there's many mangroves in the intertidal. That's not what we're doing. Okay, forests are wonderful, but their leaves fall and rot, and it turns back into CO2 and goes back into the atmosphere. And the same thing happens deep in the hearts of the mangrove forest as well. What we want is one mangrove every 10 meters and all of the organic carbon falling into the sea, going into the ocean ecosystem to go through the normal processes, which generally results in that organic carbon being consumed, biologically degraded, and becoming part of the deep ocean ecosystem, the dissolved carbon ecosystem, and the mineralization, these gigantic carbon plateaus that you can find all around the world. That's where carbon that has gone into our atmosphere over the years has managed to make its way. And you say, well, how did that carbon get there? Because we would sure like more of that carbon to go there. Well, it got there because it fell into the ocean. Generally not in the oxidized CO2 form, but organic carbon enters the ocean. And when that organic carbon enters the ocean, we get mineralization and other processes that sequester that carbon for millions of years. So it literally, long-term, permanently takes the carbon out of the carbon cycle. And since we've been mining carbon and introducing it into the carbon cycle, and we've thrown off the carbon balance of Earth, we need to do this. We need to facilitate the carbon going into the ocean. That's what marine forestation is designed to do. There's many complex processes and such that include planting trees structurally supported in the shallows of the ocean and other processes that marine forestation plans on implementing on massive million-hectare scale around the world, because that's what it takes to resolve an excess of gigatons of carbon. Now, this will not save the Mekong Delta from desiccation. I cannot imagine anything that will save it at this point. It is too late. All opportunities to save the Mekong are gone. They've all passed as far as I know. All we can do is mitigate the damage. Try to keep millions of people from starving to death by providing other food sources, such as marine forestation, where you get somewhere around a ton of seafood per hectare, over 1 million hectares of marine forestation. We have a chance to keep the economy, the civil government, things intact on the Mekong and in Vietnam, while this transition away from reliance on the food source of the Mekong Delta, which has been for quite some time the breadbasket of Asia. 60 million people rely on the Mekong, and we are in the process of letting them down in the most disastrous way you could possibly imagine. So everybody contact Elon Musk, tell him, help. Okay, this is the solution. This is what must happen. And marine forestation does not cost very much. It's about maybe $15,000 per hectare for construction, the most, and it produces a ton of seafood every year over time. So it's actually extremely profitable. So join me in making a universal voice. We need every hoo-hooing, if you know what I'm saying. We can put the resources to work to mitigate the desiccation of the Mekong Delta. Join me in making this happen. Thanks.